What's up, y'all? It's your boy Tevin Jameer back at it again with not just another episode, but the 100th episode of the Hate It or Love It podcast. It's crazy. I've been doing this podcast for like 3 years now, I think. And here I am at episode 100. Um, I do have some special things planned. I'm going to talk about what my plans are going forward with the podcast. I'm going to talk about, I'm going to answer questions that, I put up prompts on like different social medias for people to ask me questions. So I'm going to answer some of those. And I'm going to talk about like some of my favorite episodes of the show. But before I get to all of that, I know you guys are looking for some type of explanation. I have not put out an episode for like the past 2, 3 weeks, probably. And truth be told, and I'm even filming this episode later than usual. Like, I should be dropping this on a Tuesday, which y'all know Tuesdays are my regular days. But I haven't been filming episodes just because I'm not gonna lie. And I've touched on this a couple of times through the podcast, but I have been diagnosed with depression, years ago, and I would say I'm definitely in a better space than I was, definitely when I first started the podcast. But like when I was diagnosed with it, I was in a way better. I'm in a way better space than I was then, and you know, depression is kind of like one of those things where like you can be in a better space, but like it's still going to affect you, I don't feel like it's something that fully goes away or anything like that. I feel like it's like a constant battle and stuff like that. And these past few weeks, I'm not gonna lie, I was pretty much in a dark place, and I don't feel like talking about it for anybody that personally knows me. I don't feel like talking about it right now. But pretty much I just felt uninspired these past few weeks. Like stuff has been going on. Like y'all know I like to talk about like a lot of current things as far as movies, music, and all of that. And like if you follow me on Instagram, then yeah, like I'm still posting my stories, so it may look like I'm just doing all right, but like truth be told, like personally, I just wasn't feeling the best. So I didn't intend on taking time away from the podcast or anything. It just kind of happened because I was feeling less inspired. But, you know, I do feel bad. Like, I obviously mental health is like, something it's something you can work on, but it's not like something that you can fully control. Y'all get what I'm saying? Like, I do feel bad because I did promise y'all consistency, but, yeah, yeah. If you guys go through it, then y'all understand it. But pretty much, I'm sorry I couldn't keep up. I'm sorry that I didn't keep my consistency like I promised y'all earlier this year. But like, I'm always gonna try to give y'all content whenever I feel, good enough to create content. So that's kind of explains where I've been. I'm gonna try not to take as long. If I do take another break anytime this year, I'm gonna try not to take as long of a break. Like I said, I was going through it, so honestly, time just kind of became a blur. Like I don't even remember if it was 2 or 3 weeks exactly, but like I said, I'm gonna try not to take like that long of a break again. But I felt like I owed you guys some type of explanation just because, I do know there is people that do actually like watching my podcast and that do like the consistency of it. So yeah. Um, but with all that being said, let's get into it. And I want to start with the questions that I got at first. So the first two questions that I got was from my cousin who also has his own podcast. I'm gonna shout him out and put his stuff in the bio. But yeah, my cousin James asked me two questions. The first one is what's the biggest lesson since starting the podcast? And the second one is what is my next film project? So I would say the biggest lesson, and I know this is gonna sound like, some people might take this as a shot. I mean, but if the shoe fits. But this is the Hate It or Love It podcast. I'm gonna say what I gotta say. Y'all feel however you feel about it. But I say the biggest lesson that I learned, after starting this podcast is that I had, and I'm not even just saying this, like this was something that I definitely feel like was the biggest lesson I learned. Um, I say definitely I had to learn that everybody that you personally know is not going to support you, just that plain and simple. I always hear like people on social media or artists or people that ever had a come up story, they always talk about how sometimes people that you personally know is not going to support you until they see the success. And that is something that I definitely had to learn. Like, and not that my podcast has it's not like it's had any crazy success or anything like that, but like, there are a few people that I personally know that do actually check out my podcast. And then, in conversations, when I talk about my topics, and sometimes they'll come to me and just the way that they say things, I know they haven't watched it or they haven't checked it out. And also, I do want to put this out there too. Some people, when I do acknowledge how I felt about this, some people say like, hey, other people have lives and stuff like that. And I get that point, but at the same time, if we're sitting here supporting these bigger creators, artists, or anything like that, and you see someone that you personally know that's trying to build something and, try to come up, I don't see how you can support somebody that's already major league but not help out someone that you personally know. And when I say personally know, I mean like close, like people close to you. Like, I'm gonna be all the way real. I got close friends, like really close friends that I support their stuff, but I know that they do not watch my podcast. So that is something that I had to accept. And I used to be annoyed and, I'm not gonna lie, angry by it. But like, I've kind of learned to just accept it for what it is. And I've kind of also seen a positive in people that I don't know being able to like my podcast, partly because, when people really get to know me, I feel like they really know like where I'm coming from with things and stuff like that. Like, it's easier for people that know me to understand what I'm saying and when I give my opinions and stuff like that. And I do sometimes get the feeling that like people that I don't know like that hear me talk about my opinions on things. And sometimes they lash out, as you guys can look at the comments in previous episodes, or either like they're not fully understanding where I'm coming from. But when I do find, people that don't know me that do understand where I'm coming from, and like, I'm saying a whole bunch of but like, y'all get what I'm saying. People that don't personally know me, but you understand where I'm coming from and, my perspective on things, that's where I definitely appreciate like having more fans that don't know me. So, yeah, I would say that is definitely my biggest lesson. But if I had to give a second one that definitely pertains to like making the podcast, um I would say choosing the right guests and choosing people that like are serious about working with me and stuff like that. Because, and this kind of goes into another question that I got into why I don't have more guests on my podcast. So if you guys remember earlier in my podcast, I was always down to have guests and stuff like that. Like, I always tried to get people on. And what I found is that some of those people basically just used me just to get more views for whatever they were working on or whatever they had up next or whatever they already had out. And truth be told, this podcast is more of a passion thing for me. Would I like it to get off the ground and become something serious? Yeah, if that happens, then I would love that. But like, this podcast is mostly a passion thing. Like, I'm someone, like I said, I like to talk about deep thoughts that I'm thinking. I like to talk about movies and music and sometimes video game topics. And sometimes I don't have my friends to go and talk to about it. So I come to y'all. Like, I express myself to y'all on this podcast. So this is more of a passion thing. And I'm not going to have leeches in my passion. Now, this doesn't go for all or even most of my guests. Most of my guests, I'm cool with them. We definitely been working on stuff. I still keep up with most of them, but some really just use me just, you know, for more attention. And like, I'm not gonna do that with my platform that I'm seeing as a passion. Like, I'm not gonna just do that. So yeah, That's kind of why I haven't been having guests, and that's why I really only, if you see any guests on on the podcast, just know that I those are people that I seriously have a lot of respect for, people that I keep up with and stuff like that, like people that I rock with heavy. That's how like if they're on the podcast, that's how I really rock with them heavy, because I'm really giving you my time and my space, and I'm showing you off to my audience, the little bit that I have. So yeah, definitely that's probably the biggest one that I've learned. And truth be told, I have no problem talking about myself. I know sometimes people do give me like critiques, and sometimes people give me like advice, like you should have more people on, someone that you can bounce off of, and I honestly don't have a problem with that. Not as a regular, I still want to have this be my sole platform, but as far as like having people on more, I wouldn't mind it, but like I said, it has to be people that I rock with heavy. So yeah. um and then the next question that I have is from the amazing, my favorite content creator, and I'm not just gassing her up. Like I'm not gonna say the word, but yeah, my favorite content creator, Andrea Tomasi, who I've definitely shouted out a few times on this podcast, and she subscribed to my YouTube. So when she told me that she subscribed, I was like, hold on, hold on now. But yeah, Andrea, if you're watching this, just know you're amazing. I love your content. You know that, but I love your content. Keep doing what you do. You inspire people like me. Um, but her question is, what's the first movie that ignited my passion for film? Um, I'm gonna keep it real with you, Andrea. I probably had to ask my mom that one, to be honest. I probably had to ask my mom, my dad, maybe my uncles and aunts. Like I probably had to ask, and the reason I say that is just because I've loved film pretty much ever since I was a little kid. Like my family always told me stories about how when I was a baby, like I would always carry like a case of VHS tapes. Even my DVDs, like I'll go over anybody's house. They tell me I'd go over anybody's house and I will instantly know how to plug up their VCR DVD player, and I will instantly just start watching a movie. Like apparently when I was younger, all the person had to say was, sure, Tevin could watch a movie, and I would have everything set up and I would be like in a trance, apparently, just sitting there watching it and stuff like that. So I've always loved film as long as I can remember, and even to the point where I don't remember, apparently I love film. So I don't know exactly the movie that started my love for film altogether, but the best answer I can give you is the film that made me fall in love with the idea of directing a film is honestly The Hangover. I've said this before on the podcast, but and I don't really like to tell people this, but whenever I'm like on sets and stuff like that, or even when I'm talking about creating films with people, everybody always suggests that I should get into acting. And truth be told, when I was younger, like when I was really really young, I actually did want to be an actor. So the little bit of acting chops that I have, which I don't like acting, to be honest, it's just not my thing. But and I almost sound like Eminem when it comes to 8 Mile. Like apparently Eminem is really good at acting, but he just doesn't like it much. For me, yeah, I guess I'm decent at acting if everybody keeps asking me to do it, but like I just prefer not to do it. But when I was younger, that's what I wanted to do, because like as a kid, you don't really know the business, you don't really know the industry like that. So like I thought the power was in the actors, especially when back in the day when I was a kid, like movies kept being promoted like this actor, that actor. Rarely would you ever see a director be like the main draw to a movie. I feel like directors being main draws has kind of been more of a recent thing. But yeah, when I was younger, it was more the actors that drew me into films, and I thought the actors were pretty much the ones running the show. But where the hangover comes in is when I first seen it for the first time, it instantly became my favorite movie of all time. Like it was funny. I was genuinely invested in the search for Doug. Um, Not only that, but like a lot of criticisms that I hear about comedy movies, especially in the 2000s, is that stuff just happens just to happen. But I feel like The Hangover is one of those movies where, yeah, people remember like all the wacky stuff. But I think the thing that people look over is how clever those wacky things actually, played along into the story. Stuff in The Hangover did not just happen just to happen. Those funny moments led to another piece of the puzzle to find Doug. So that's why I love The Hangover so much. Like, not only is it really the funniest movie I've ever seen in my life, but the story and the search for Doug just it's just a perfect combination. Not even just to mention, but Zach Galifianakis, Bradley Cooper, Ed Helms, perfect casting. Not only were they funny, but they also like held the story together in this search for Doug. Um, Also, the stakes were pretty high. I think a lot of people forget how serious of a character Chow somewhat was in the beginning. Yes, we all know the trunk scene and we all know the little jokes he made in the first movie, but he was a very threatening force in the first movie. They made him more funny in the second and third one, but like he was very threatening in the first one, to be honest. And and the cinematography was great too. I'm just getting lost in The Hangover, but basically the whole movie was great, and it was one of the few movies that made me finally say, you know what, I want to see how this movie is made. So when I watched like all the behind the scenes stuff, and I found out about like Todd Phillips being the director, and I'm seeing like him calling the shots and him talking about how he created this film, that's what made me love, that part of film. Like, oh, so somebody created this whole story and all these people came together to like bring their vision to life. Like, that's the thing I love about film. Not only is it like, it starts with one person, or it starts with a few people, depending on who's writing the film, of course. But like, it starts with a draft, then you get a cast, then you get like a crew that everybody is here and everybody is making their part in this bigger piece that's like a big piece of art. I'm just rambling, but like that's what I love the most about film. It's just like so many hands to help bring someone's vision to life. And you know and also the other thing I love about film, and I was watching a video somewhat on it today, is like film, depending on how ambitious your film is, it's definitely a magic trick. And the video that I saw earlier was talking about how Muppet movies were able to pull off like not having the puppeteers there when CGI wasn't really much of a thing at the time, and they're showing like little techniques that the director and the crew came up with, like let's hide this person behind a mirror, let's hide this person, let's build this set that makes it practical to film this scene. That's why I say like film is really art, and that's why we really need to appreciate all the work that goes into a film, the writers, the director, the producers, the crew that makes everything possible. Like seeing all of that is why I love film so much. And the film that made me look deeper into the art of film is The Hangover. So yeah, I hope that answers the question, because I also do want to know what is the actual film that really got me in the film. I do want to know. I guess the earliest I can remember is like Shrek, maybe. I think Shrek. So I guess maybe Shrek, but like I said, I had to call my mom to really get that answer. I forgot to answer James' second question, and that is my next film project. So that's another thing that a lot of people have been talking to me about recently. It's been a year since the release of Blood Money, and a lot of people is expecting Blood Money 2, which I've always kept it real with people. I always told them Blood Money 2 is intended to be a full length film. And that's something I feel like that's going to be way down the line. My next short film is going to be a. Okay, I'm going to tell y'all. I'm going to tell y'all, but I'm not going to go too deep into it because I have surprises for it. My next short film, I want to do a good version of The Room. If you've ever seen the movie, I think it came out in like 2003, 2004. It was made by this guy named Tommy Wiseau. And the plot of that movie, which I know film people will know it, but anybody that's part of my audience that don't know what that movie is, pretty much it's directed by this guy named Tommy Wiseau. He written, directed all of it. Like he even produced it. Like he got a bunch of money for the film to get it made and released theatrically, and nobody knows how he was able to pull it off. It's about this guy and his fiance is cheating on him with his best friend. And pretty much the movie is just this whole crazy love triangle, and it ends in a very tragic way. But here's the thing. He made this movie with the intention of it really being like one of the best movies ever, with it being like a very serious drama. But it was so poorly made that people view it as a comedy. And I love the film. Like it really is so bad that it's good. I love the film, but I genuinely feel like the story is I feel like he actually had a good idea. Maybe the execution wasn't there. Obviously the execution wasn't there. But I like the story. So I want to make a good version of it. And I've heard that they're making a good version of it. I seen the clip that leaked online. That no, that still ain't it. So I want to do an actual service to Tommy Wiseau. I do actually, and this isn't me saying like, oh, his movie is shit and I want to make it better than I want to do better than what he can do. I see it as paying homage to what he set up, and I want to show him that like I genuinely like your idea. So that's what I want to do with it. My next short film is gonna be a quote unquote good version of that. I don't know how people is gonna feel about it, especially with some of the creative differences that I'm thinking about doing. I don't know how people is gonna feel about it, but I'm gonna try to do justice, not just to Tommy Wiseau, but even the fans of that movie. Like I want to make it so that the fans can even enjoy it too. So I'm still in the writing phases. I'm still That's the thing about making a movie. My least favorite part is writing it. I have the ideas in my head, but you need to write it so that the cast and like other people that's helping you make it know what they're getting into. So like I know exactly what I want, but I hate having to sit down and actually write it. Like I want to get to the action and directing it and all that, but it's a process. Like I said earlier, like it's pieces that got to come together. So yeah, as much as I just want to get straight to it because I know what I want, I also need to, get to that. So that's going to be my next project. Like I said, that's all I'm going to tell y'all because I don't want to reveal too much, but I'm hoping to start filming that probably the end of this year and probably having it out to y'all by next summer or something like that, but we'll have to see. Um and then the last question that I had, I really didn't get too many questions, just a few, but the last question that I had is plans that I have for the podcast. Like, what do I want to do for the future? Um, for the most part, I'm still going to keep doing what I'm doing. Like, obviously, this is the main thing of the podcast, me getting on, talking to y'all about different topics and stuff like that. I do notice, like, with newer episodes compared to back then, I kind of went like one random thing to another random thing to another random thing. And now newer episodes is kind of like one topic surrounding the whole episode. For the most part, I want to go back to that old style because I felt like that's when people interacted with the podcast more, when I would touch on multiple topics in one episode. If it's a slow news week, if it's a week where I don't have too many thoughts in my head, then yeah, I will stick to the one topic and episode thing. But I do think that viewers and I also personally enjoyed touching on multiple topics in one singular episode. Not only that, but I do want to try to have more guests. I do, but like I said, it got to be people that I'm really rocking with. So like don't expect like a whole barrage of like guest episodes, but like I definitely do want to like have more people on, but only after like I really know that they're rocking with me for real and stuff like that. So I do definitely want to have more people on. Like I said, in terms of guests that I definitely want to have on, I want to have Corey back on, talk about power and stuff like that. Cause Power just got a whole bunch of news, but that's just another episode for another day. I do want to have Corey on to talk about Power and TV shows and stuff like that again. I want to have Josh on. Um, Definitely, basically everybody that I went to Mason with, I gotta have them back on. I didn't have Michael on the podcast. I did show up on his YouTube channel to talk about the Netflix Avatar series, but I gotta have Michael on because he's a film reviewer, like an actual film reviewer in the industry. And you guys know that I'm a big film person, and whenever me and him talk, like we talk about our opinions on film and stuff like that. So at some point, maybe at the end of the year, I should do like close to the end of the year, me and him just talk about our thoughts on 2025 in terms of film, because that is one of the main things we keep talking about is like, how does 2025 stand up in terms of film compared to other years? So, Michael, if you're watching this, we got to make that happen. My friend Mike, that I also talked about earlier, I got to have him on. Um, I don't think I've ever had my friend Jalen on that I used to, do gaming videos with, but whenever he comes back from the Navy, definitely gotta, whenever he comes down to visit, I gotta have him on in some way, shape, or form. Mikey, y'all know Mikey. If you've been subscribed to my channel for a while, y'all know Mikey. I gotta get him back on. Basically, all my close friends gotta get on. I definitely want to try to get Andrea Tomasi on here one day. One day I would definitely love to get her on here. Here's the thing with that. I definitely thought about asking her, but at the same time, I'm also like, I don't know. I gotta contain myself. I don't want to be fanned out, but I definitely want to have her on here at some point. Um, but yeah, Anthony, Emo, all the normal people. I definitely got to get them on here, and you never know. Another major thing that I want to do for the podcast, I definitely, ever since me, Emo, Nah, and Anthony did that episode with like the four of us at that studio. I want to do more like round table type episodes. I've definitely had the idea of like, because this is the Hate It or Love It podcast. I like to talk about controversial and deep things. So I do want to have themed episodes where I step back as the host and become more of a moderator, and I just bring people on to talk about certain topics. For Valentine's Day, I wanted to do like a relationship type roundtable episode and get like couples together, singles, and like talk about like love, relationships, and you know, all of that. Um, I wanted, for Black History Month, I definitely wanted to get like a round table of like different Black creators and talking about like, you know, being Black in creative spaces and stuff like that. Like, I want to do round table episodes. It's just, like I said, I don't want to just have anybody on the podcast just to have anybody. I want to seriously have people that I rock with on here. So, eventually I would definitely love to do a roundtable episode, but that's something I've always wanted to do for a long time. Like, I want to be a moderator and just have other people express their opinions, on this platform. Um, but yeah, that's all the upcoming ideas that I have for the podcast. Um, and then the last thing I wanted to really talk about, the last topic, is what was some of my favorite episodes of the shows thus far, which there's a there's 99 other episodes to pick from. So I definitely have a few, but the very first episode is definitely one of my favorites, of course, because it was the first one. I haven't watched it in a long time, but I do think that I talked about my 4th of July experience that year, which that was a crazy experience. Definitely go watch the episode for that. I think I touched on the MCU, but yeah, I just mostly say the first episode just because it started all of this. Like the guests, the crazy moments on the podcast that I had to edit out, that I kept in, like everything that was done on the podcast would not be here If it wasn't for that first episode and all the reception that people were giving me from that first episode. So yeah, the first episode definitely, this is more of a category, but I still consider all of them my favorite episodes. The end of year episodes. I'm talking like previous years where I compiled like all my topics into one. And then last year I did multiple end of year episodes where I talked about my favorite moments, movies, music, just any episode that had to do with the end of the year and me talking about my thoughts on different things about the year. Definitely some of my favorite episodes. And it's probably like my favorite time of the year because I can go through my moments and talk about why I loved a certain moment from this year. I can go through the movies, and y'all know I can talk about movies all day. I can talk about like why I love the movies, why I rank them where they are. Music is like, I can also talk about like my favorite albums and why I loved a certain album so much. So it just allows me to ramble about my topics. It allows me to nerd out, okay? So that's why I love the end of the year episodes. Um, Guest episodes, definitely. My favorite guest episodes were definitely DZ, Ali, and Al. Me and DZ, every time we link up, we always have a great conversation about like artistry and stuff like that. Ali, he definitely, basically same thing with DZ. Like we get to talk about the music industry and stuff like that. Like I definitely enjoyed those. Al is my friend that he served as a cinematographer to Blood Money, and me and him has been planning a lot of moves in this film stuff for a while. So like Al, of course, I love talking about film with him. The other episodes, basically anything with Emo and Anthony, I feel like we always have the wildest episodes together because Emo is always saying some crazy stuff. I say crazy stuff here and there, but I'm just more just reacting to like, Emo, what the heck are you talking about? And then Anthony is kind of like the guy that like, he's the straight man. He keeps both of us leveled and stuff like that. So I just love the camaraderie that the three of us have. So whenever we have episodes together, which at this point we had three episodes together, I got to get a fourth episode with them by the end of this summer. But yeah, like episodes with them. But I'd probably say the best episode between, if okay, in terms of actual discussion, I'd probably say the latest episode that the three of us did was the best episode. But just in terms of funniness and everything, like definitely the episode that the three of us did with Nah. That one was just like, if I want a good laugh, I'll just turn that episode on. And yeah, that's all the episodes that I just wanted to shout out. Of course, I appreciate every episode. I loved every single episode. And here's the thing about me, I am the type of person where I will record a whole episode and straight up delete it if I felt like I kept mumbling or anything like that, stumbling on my words, stuttering. Like, if I felt like I did not do good in an episode, I am the type to like dead ass record like a whole 30, 40, almost hour episode and delete it and say, I'll get back to it the next day. So whenever I release these episodes, I release what I feel like is good enough quality for y'all. So yeah. And I do be having my rambling moments, stutter sometimes, all of that, but ultimately the people that rock with me and that rocks with it will rock with it. But yeah. Yeah, so that's all I wanted to talk about in terms of topics. Uh, of course, going forward, like I said earlier in the episode, I do want to stay as consistent as possible. And I'll just say this, I've definitely been working on techniques to try to keep myself out of that dark space. Not only that, but I'm about to go on vacation from work soon. So like I'll be out of work for almost 2 weeks. So within those almost 2 weeks, I plan on trying to do something special every day. Like I'm going on a trip to Baltimore. I think I've mentioned that before. Guys trip this year. Um, Going back to Baltimore. So I'm going to definitely enjoy that. Don't worry though. While I am in Baltimore, I will record an episode before so that it releases while I'm there so that you guys will still have content. But yeah, I'm gonna take a lot of time to myself. of course, still putting out content, but I'm gonna take a lot of time to myself during that vacation, do a lot of fun things and connect with people. Um, yeah, so like I said, going forward, you're gonna get consistency. Like I said, I'm still gonna try to get guests and stuff like that. And before I end this, I just want to say thank you guys to anybody that watched the podcast, left a comment, even if it was a hate comment. For anybody that left a hate comment, a love comment, uh, just adding to the conversation. If you ever liked, subscribed, shared, if you ever done anything that interacted with this podcast, got me more views, put more eyes on this, like seriously, I thank every single one of my supporters, and I even thank the haters because, like I said, interaction leads to me getting somewhere in the algorithm. But like, I definitely thank all the people that support me, the people that's been rocking with me for the past few years, and that's, here for the journey, not just even for the podcast journey, but even for my film journey. Like, I seriously thank every single one of y'all. And honestly, I'm not going to keep doing something if I don't see results. And that's the reason that I'm here doing episode 100 right now, is because you guys are showing me that this is what you want to see. So honestly, I should give y'all a round of applause. Um, but yeah, with all that being said, Tevin Jameer signing out. Peace. And once again, thank y'all for supporting the Hater 11 podcast. Catch y'all on the next one.